Our third speaker is Sal Petroccitto, OAM. Sal is the Chief Executive of the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator here in Australia. He has an extensive knowledge of heavy vehicle policy, strategy, regulation and business reform, having held senior leadership roles in transport, freight, ports and logistics, strategic land use and transport planning, including business processes, improvement and innovation across state and local government and the private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sal Petroccitto.
Good morning, everyone, and I hope you're well. I won't go into that level of detail of engineering as Peter did, but I did find that quite interesting. And to all the international visitors who are in the country's best capital city, welcome, and I hope you're enjoying Brisbane and our weather. I've been asked to talk to you this morning on a couple of things, and really what the regulator does and how we operate and how we're using technology to undertake our safety agenda. So let's get into it. So I will give a brief update on who we are. As I said, how we're using technology from a compliance perspective, some of the key projects that we have underway in the way we're utilising information and data to drive innovation, what we're doing from a customer's perspective, because we all have to realise at the end of the day, we actually are here to serve customers and people want to buy things and things need to move and the economy needs to be productive. And we all need to play an important role in that, both from a regulatory sense, but also from the way we facilitate that in a safety outcome proposal as well. And I'll also touch on some of the initiatives that have been steering safety over the last number of years. So who are we? We are an independent statutory body. We were established by a decision of the Transport Ministers back in 2013 to really bring to this country a standardised national approach to the way things are done. What has become quite evident is that federation is actually holding this country's productivity and the way we achieve things. So the intent of the regulator was to bring all regulatory functions under one organisation to deliver consistency in the way the industry is both regulated, but the way productivity is also delivered. Easier said than done. I report to a board. That board is appointed by ministers. I have roughly 800 staff across the country, undertaking everything, as I said, from the on-road regulatory functions to administering, facilitating productivity, working with state road agencies, local governments, but more importantly with the industry and the way it facilitates outcomes in a safe and efficient manner. And what's become very evident to the regulator is that the only way we can undertake that task is through the use of technology, data, and the way we extrapolate that to achieve the outcomes that we want to achieve. So for us, the development of new technology is really playing a key role in improving those safety outcomes for the heavy vehicle industry. And we are really driving the approach as being a modern, intelligent-led regulator. And we're continually using data to target our biggest safety risks that we see on the networks. We've started to mature our data capability. We're building algorithms, we're using engines, risk profiles, and really we're using this information to assist us in decision making. And as Peter indicated in his speech, there's still that human interface that's really important in the way we make our decisions. Our fatigue algorithm engine, our access engine, mass crash risk engine is really starting to establish profiles. And whether those profiles identify high-risk operators, vehicles, supply chain, or infrastructure type activity, it actually allows us to focus our energies in the areas that need the most attention. And those data sources, whether it's a national registration data set, crash data, defect data that we capture, whether that's through intercepts or infringements, continue to evolve our rich information in the way our officers undertake their role. All that's done within the regulatory framework that you've heard this morning of the Heavy Vehicle National Law, and that gives us that framework to do that. And increasingly what we're starting to see is that the utilisation and the sharing of this information both internally and externally with other agencies, but more importantly the industry, will start to see an improvement in the way safety and compliance in this country is delivered. We're also starting to use early warning systems and predictive analytics in the way those tools can leverage the data to advance the analytical techniques and the probability of identifying a potential risk. we realise that we don't have enough capability or resources to be out there to, in effect, administer what is a complex task on this road. So we need to do that smarter, and we understand that these particular types of tool sets will give us that capability to do that. These systems will enable to utilise data from various sources, such as historical records, real-time monitoring, external data feeds, to identify early indicators of patterns, and where we may then provide our intercept capabilities to ensure that that doesn't happen. So if we can stop something occurring before it's actually occurred, that's a far better outcome. We continue to analyse this data set, we continue to fine-tune it, and what we're starting to see is that investment in technology, that investment in advancement in becoming a more modern technology-driven regulator is actually starting to pay dividends. The predictive analytics also involves us better utilising statistical modelling, machine learning algorithms, and historical data, and that's a reason why we've actually invested in data scientists and mathematicians at the organisation to the way we utilise this information that we capture. And as I've mentioned, early predictive analysis and the investment in that data will definitely allow us to achieve far greater safety outcomes. We also realised that we couldn't continue to undertake the functions if we stayed in the stone age of pen and paper. So we have transitioned all of our regulatory activities now into a digital environment. Our officers now on a day-to-day basis are using technology that you see on the screen. It allows them to capture information, it allows them to recall information. We deployed this back in 2020 after some work we'd done with the Victorian government. And it really starts to provide that data set to the fingertips of our officers. This mobile application ensures that our authorised officers can see history, whether that vehicle's been intercepted previously, what type of interactions we've had with the driver, what sort of defect history that particular company or that particular truck may have. But what we've also been able to do by utilising digital technologies is actually improve the efficiency of the way the intercept occurs. And an intercept now is actually reduced down to about 15 minutes. So that's actually saving the driver's time and operationally significant time across the country. So without compromising safety, we're actually delivering dividends and productivity dividends back into the industry. We're currently working closely with Western Australian Main Roads to actually utilise that system as well, and that will then give us a full visibility across the country in terms of the way the heavy vehicle fleet is moving. That application is supported by about 115 fixed cameras across the country. And late last year, we were actually able to now get real-time feeds into those devices. So that allows us actually to monitor in real time the focus areas based on the risk algorithms that indicate to us which particular vehicle of interest we may want to intercept. So that's allowing us to be more focused in the areas that probably need more attention. But more importantly, what it means is for operators who are doing the right thing and continue to maintain those higher safety standards will continue to operate efficiently and effectively without those unnecessary intercepts. So we'll continue to enhance this system. We'll continue to utilise those various data sets, the way we integrate with other technologies that you are hearing throughout this conference. But it's really about providing us that rich picture of information to ensure that not only the regulatory safety side can be implemented, but also that protection of infrastructure, which as we've heard this morning is becoming quite critical, can be also maintained. As an organisation, we also understand that innovation in the way the heavy vehicle fleet operates is critical, and I'm pleased to say that we probably have some of the most innovative heavy vehicles in the world that operate in Australia. And a lot of that is being done under the guise of performance-based standards. And through our scheme, we do take the opportunity really to continue to enhance and improve productivity and sustainability, but it's done through a very focused safety lens. And really the basic principles of PBS is ensuring that the right vehicle is actually designed for the right task. But PBS also has probably some of the stringent safety standards that need to be complied with. So in essence, a performance-based standard vehicle is probably one of our safest vehicles on the network and probably one of the most efficient to move goods and services, which will continue to grow in this country at an alarming rate. And as we've already heard, we have a decline in driver base, but the demand from the general public is not stopping, so there needs to be innovation put forward in the way we move goods and services, but we need to ensure it's done in the most efficient and effective manner. And that slide now on the screen is probably some of the key innovation that's actually been coming out of performance-based standards work. And working with both the Port of Brisbane in the way they move these containers on port, and the importance that the analysis that's been undertaken to ensure that vehicle is safe can start to deliver some of these innovative designs. Now, I'm not expecting to see that type of combination down the main street of every town, but in the right situation, in the right location, you can imagine the productivity benefits that come from being able to move those number of containers in one truck with one driver rather than multiple trucks and multiple drivers. So for us, this is something that we're keen to continue to focus on. We're keen to ensure that the PBS scheme really does focus on innovation, and what is now commonplace should no longer be in performance-based schemes. It should be part of the regulatory or the prescriptive fleet. And basically what I'm saying in that, if we see a modern day A-double that's now basically become the common truck, why isn't it the common truck? And really focus our energy on what the true innovation piece is, and that's where we start to get some of the benefits overall. The scheme itself continues to grow. We're nearly hitting 20,000 combinations. Work done by the NTC has actually indicated that this particular type of fleet is one of the safest fleets on the road, and it has the ability to actually save lives. And if we think through that, that's a pretty important statement. Through the use of innovation in safety, in technology that can move goods and services efficiently and effectively on our network, we could save lives. Maybe we should be adopting more. The organisation's also quite aware that the move to zero-emission vehicles is well upon us. And while we continue to work with both OEMs and road agencies and the industries, we do see that this is an area that will start to bring some significant benefits to the country. It is quite clearly stated in all political agendas at the moment that the move to zero emission is a platform that this country will need to embrace. But we're also quite I suppose, realistic of the view that due to the size and scale of this country, we think that there's probably going to be a number of fuel types that will be utilised, whether that's battery electric or hydrogen, fuel cells, but we don't think diesel is dead. What we probably see is that cleaner, smarter diesel will still be needed in some of the remote parts of this country where you probably can't run that extension cord to plug in that truck and give it the power that it needs to move the 100-odd tonne that we operate in this country. But what we're also seeing with the advancement to these newer type vehicles is that it will start to put pressure on road agencies as they start to understand what the mass issues of these newer, smarter vehicles will have on the network. And I do encourage all road agencies who are now starting to put a considerable amount of focus on the zero emission agenda to continue that work, because it does provide us some significant advantages to the way we embrace smarter technology. The Safer Freight Vehicle package that the Commonwealth Government announced earlier in the year will now see us move from a 2.5 metre wide truck to a 2.55 metre wide truck. With that will come a complete safety suite of safety standards on those vehicles that cannot be removed. So again, a small increase in width to deliver some huge significant safety benefits, which will see that cascade through the fleet, which will ultimately see a higher level of safer vehicles on the network as some of those older trucks start to dissipate out. I think that's a good thing. I think that's something we need to continue to focus on and work on. We're also looking at the way we can continue to improve sustainability through the use of productivity data. And earlier in October, we launched a new interactive tool called the Freight Pass, which basically assists industry and road managers on how decision-making on what can move on the network can be done through both safely, productively, and and sustainably. Freight Pass uses more than 1 million registration data sets. It assesses a range of performance factors for conventional and performance-based standard vehicles, including crash likelihood, trip numbers, and travel time and fuel consumption. The tool itself has been designed to enable users to specify the freight task scenario and compare over 200 common freight combinations. It estimates and compares the performance of those combinations against 14 productivity, safety, and sustainability measures, and specifically curated to industry and road managers to better understand the long-term effect of road freight activity. The use of data and the methods that road managers trust as part of what their current decision-making will actually help an operator and road managers ensure that the right vehicle is actually operating on those networks. And it also then visualises those results in a series of graphs and scorecards, which can then be readily utilised in helping to make decisions. Specifically, it was specifically requested by road managers. The NHVR has worked with them to develop this functionality. It's part of our heavy vehicle productivity plan. And it's really ensuring that road managers are armed with the information and confidence that they need to grant access for these higher performance vehicles. We're hoping that the tool will actually assist road managers, and we need to remember in this country, road managers are more than state agencies. There are over 400 local government local governments in this country who are also road managers who need to utilise or can utilise this tool to make decisions around what moves in first and last mile. And what we're hoping is that the tool will actually provide for improved decision making. It will allow for the accuracy and consistency in the way the decisions are made, but more importantly, done in a manner that can actually be understood by an operator or by someone who's not technically advanced in some of these complex modelling arrangements. So the platform will also allow the users to input their scenario data, as I mentioned before, including the type of vehicle, the trip length, the average speed, the commodity and the estimated time, crash rate, fuel consumption, carbon emission, the estimated cost or savings of longer and shorter trips can also be derived from that tool. And as an example, in the scenario that you can see on the screen, comparing a 6-axle semi-trailer, a 9-axle B-double or a 12-axle prime mover, the tool can outline the outputs based on time, crash, fuel consumption and CO2 emissions. So we're really hoping that this will become a valuable tool, as I said, to all road agencies, whether they're state or local, but more importantly to industry as the way they can then make a determination as to which combination they may wish to put onto the network to move their goods and services. As I mentioned earlier, we can't lose sight of the fact why we do this. We all have customers. And whether that's you in the room, the mums and dads at home that are buying goods, everything that ultimately ends up in someone's cupboard, shelf, or what they wear will start or end their journey on some truck. There might be other activities in between, so we can't lose sight of the fact that the customer is largely driving what we need to deliver. What we need to do as regulators and state agencies ensure that that's done in the most efficient and effective manner. So as an organisation, we continue to strive to ensure that our organisation is customer focused in everything that we do and the way that we operate, and it is really starting to distinguish us from other regulators. I'm really pleased to say that we were awarded last week the 2023 Customer Service Organisation of the Year for government non-for-profit, and that's something that I'm extremely proud of, a regulator being acknowledged for its commitment to customer. So you've heard this morning some mention of our portal. So our portal is our, I'll wait for that to come up, but the portal itself is really has transformed the way that we're interacting with both industry and government. We are now working on the portal becoming the heavy vehicle business centre, basically meaning that it'll be the home for industry's access, accreditation, PBS and compliance history data. So as an operator, you have one location to get all the information that you need to undertake your functions. We're also hoping that it will assist local governments in the way they manage heavy vehicle access and the way they can make decisions on their infrastructure. You would appreciate we deal with some very large and very small local governments, and they don't all have the capabilities to have sophisticated tool sets. Earlier this year, we extended the functionality in the portal. One more. That's it, thank you. Where we now have a compliance module, which actually now allows an operator to see compliance data when that occurs. So if an intercept has occurred on the side of the road and my officers have an interaction with that driver, that compliance information will now sit in the portal. That compliance information will now be made available to the operator in real time. So if they need to then get materials or stuff that may be required to rectify that defect, that can be done quickly. More importantly, it starts to give the operator then some profile or history of the types of areas that they might be getting non-compliance. So we continue to upgrade the portal, we continue to improve its accuracy and its consistency, and there's a lot of work happening in the portal in the way we actually manage access. That system dealt with over 150,000 permit applications last year. It's the gateway in, it's the gateway out, it's a central location for where industry can interface. The tool set is available on any device. It will continue to be enhanced to ensure that that functionality provides the industry the most relevant information that it needs. We fundamentally believe that industry will significantly benefit from being able to ascertain information that normally would only be available in the back office or other areas. So this is a key area that we'll continue to do a lot more work in. And for us, we fundamentally believe that it is a powerful tool set to actually start to bring the standardisation and consistency in service delivery that the regulator was originally intended in its establishment to deliver. Jeff spoke about the work on the NAS. The regulator has been asked to deliver a national network map. We're working on those enhancements. It will include the development of a single national network map. As we continue to transition each state and territory's networks maps across to the portal, creating that single entry point for industry and local government to access services, we fundamentally believe that that should remove some of the ambiguity that currently exists by having to go to multiple locations or multiple jurisdictional portals to actually understand where you can go. So one designated place encompassing all the information you need to plan your route for your fleet. An intelligent route planner for heavy vehicles, and the ability to ultimately reduce the request for permits, something that we collectively share with the state agencies in terms of how we can more productively get this industry moving safely. So while you can see we do a lot within the organisation, we're also looking at how we work more constructively with the broader industry in the way we can steer some safety outcomes. So through the Heavy Vehicle Safety Initiative scheme, which is funded by the Commonwealth Government and that we administer, we issue grants to ensure that road safety or projects that improve heavy vehicle safety can be funded. And these initiatives are normally industry-driven, who are the best people to sometimes deliver those outcomes. Round 9 of the scheme will open later this month. And if you have a project that you think could benefit from that scheme, I strongly encourage you to apply for it. To date, through to round 8, there's nearly been $38 million worth of investment into 153 projects that have started to deliver some benefits, and some of those that you can see on the screen, and some of you in this room have actually benefited from that safety funding. So a great initiative from the Commonwealth in terms of the funding they give us, a great initiative that we administer in working in partnership with the industry to deliver those outcomes. So hopefully you can see from my short presentation this morning that as a regulator, we're more than just throwing the book at someone. It's about really using data and technology and ensuring the way that we can keep this industry safe, but more importantly, the way we can keep it productive. Because if we don't have a productive industry, the implications of that are felt across everything that we experience. But our role is twofold, as I've mentioned. That key focus on safety will be paramount in everything that we do, but we won't lose sight of that productivity element. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this morning. I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference and the rest of the couple of days here. Thank you.